We finally passed our luck check. It's
The No Class Podcast
with your host Eddie
and Matt.
Hey Matt, how's it going? How you doing?
That's easy for you to say. I'm doing damned good.
It's easier when it's just me and I can do all the edits.
You can just do it with yourself.
Exactly. Nothing wrong with having a good time by yourself.
Nothing wrong with that. Not a thing. Well, happy International GM's Day, sir.
Another made-up holiday.
I know, isn't it awesome? But it's one that honors the most important of individuals, those who do all the work to bring joy and pleasure to others around a game table. They should get, steaks and, pee-pee touches at a minimum, but not from their players.
That's what it sounds like to me, so I'll volunteer to make the steak.
Anyway, so what's been going on?
Not too much. We're finally back and live again.
I know. We got snowed out.
I think it's been a month since the last cast. I think it's been a month since we last sat down face-to-face and had a chat.
Yeah, we haven't had a chance to talk, hang out.
But here's something you always ask about. Our numbers are jumping.
Oh, my.
We got lots of new people finding the show.
Really?
So when I go and look at the numbers, there are times historically when I could go, and if we didn't have a new podcast or anything, it'd be like, you have 0 listens for this week, or the 0 listens for the last 24 hours. Now, almost every time I look at the number, we've had 8 to 10 listens.
Wow. Thank you, all of you.
So we are solidly in the, 4 digits now?
Nice.
Which for a little podcast with 2 guys talking to tin cans at a living room table in Longview, Texas.
That little old
pretty damn
podcast from
impressive.
Texas. Yeah, I mean, I'm flummoxed. Thank you. Y'all are great.
So I don't know if you've had this occur to you yet, if this has happened. But the funny thing is, when we'll have an episode that's like a year back or something now, so it's a year old for us, but it's brand new to them.
Yeah.
So they'll ask you like, hey, when you were talking about this, what did you mean? I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't remember that conversation.
I have no recollection of this place. But I mean, it's like, wow, we have a listener in the UK, we have a listener in California, we have another in Ohio. I mean, that's just awesome.
Well, the other day, I guess we were talking about post-apocalyptic stuff and stuff like that.
My jam.
And our buddy Doug, not NTRPG Doug, but our local Doug.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and his wife is a wonderful person.
Yep. We were talking about post-apocalypse stuff, and he was like, yeah, Matt really loves that. I was like, well, I remember that conversation. I think we both kind of said we loved it.
Yeah. But that's historically, I mean, I love a lot of different settings,
Foreshadowing.
But no, I mean, post-apoc is my love.
Well, I've actually had some people,
People,
more than one,
multiple.
ask me about Carnage in the Casino. I'm going to say it all twice now today.
Which is a masterpiece from Mr. Eddie over here.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
But I kind of let that fall by the wayside. You have these grand plans a year or more ago. Because I don't know, have we been doing it? How long have we been doing this now?
Yeah, it sneaks up on you.
Are we coming up on 2 years?
It seems like it, yeah.
So all this stuff that you're like, I had such grand ambitions, and then they didn't.
I've been talking since, was it last November, getting with Leela to see for her to edit a couple of my older ones, but just haven't got that round to it.
Well, that gave me a little bit of kick in the pants. I'm going to run it at LongCon. I'm going to run that mod.
Nice.
So if you need a reason to come out to the LongCon, there you go. There's one thing that you can say. And it's actually got me thinking about it again, and some rewrites I could do, some improvements I can make.
You could give playtest credits to people. Wink, wink.
I've already got that written in.
Oh, wow.
I had to go back and find the people from NTRPG that played it. And
permission, I guess, to use their name and likeness.
there will be no permissions and no likenesses. The fact that you played this game means you've given all your rights away.
That's right.
Well, we've got a bunch of positive feedback. Again, Doug and Nicole, they've been picking up the show lately. I heard from our new friend, Jonathan, who's out in California. One thing that he brought up to me was when the show started, this was very LongCon focused.
Oh, sure.
It could have easily been the LongCon podcast.
Yeah, I mean, our emblem to represent the cast on SoundCloud is LongCon wax seal, So.
And this will always be an advertisement for the Long Con. That's the hidden truth, or whatever you want to say. The Long Con presents the No Class Podcast.
Pretty much, yeah. But but that's, you got to figure. Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for the Long Con, there wouldn't be this podcast. I'll just say that.
But think about when this show was like 30 minutes long when we started, and 10 minutes at least was talk about the Long Con.
Sure. So people were like, would you get to something I want to hear? Probably.
Yeah. So part of his point was like, I wasn't ever going to come to the Long Con, so why does this podcast appeal to me?
Yeah. Well, luckily, we've diversified our format, I guess.
We've evolved.
Oh, my.
It's evolution.
Yeah. Transhumanism.
So, from the point that he made, I guess, we have come a long way, baby. Should we do a new number one? Kind of like it. The comic books always rebrand themselves and sell you another number one.
Yeah.
Should we do the new number one?
That's a crazy idea. That's kind of segues into what I was saying before, that, if someone listened to our first 5, they might not keep going. And I think that'd be a shame because, we were kind of finding our way, baby steps with the first, I don't know how many of the original ones, but now that we've kind of hit our stride, maybe, if that's the right nomenclature, whatever. But that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, you could pretty much say that with all podcasts and maybe all forms of art.
Yeah.
Like the pilot episode of your favorite show might not have been that great, or the
first
album your favorite band puts out might not be their instant classic.
Yeah. No, it's that. I mean, I know people that absolutely adore The Office, and I'm sure it's great, but I can't get past the pilot. And I'm that guy that, like you have your quirks, I have to watch things in order. Don't ask me why. People, even with critical whatever, they're like, oh, well, if you don't like the first one, go about 5, 6 deep. I'm like, I can't do that. That's one of my quirks. Like, you're a completionist. Me, I got to watch.
You got to start at the beginning.
Like, if somebody tried to hand me the 3rd book of
Lord of the Rings,
John Carter, Warlord of Mars, and they're like, well, they all stand alone. Yeah, but no, I want to read the first one first. Well, I don't have that. Well,
you know what another good example of that is? Parks and Recreation.
Oh, yeah.
Because isn't it the first season?
First season's meh.
Exactly.
But once they hit their stride and really decided how they wanted to play Leslie, oh, man, I love that. I go back and watch it periodically because it's like comfort food, if shows the analogy. Yeah. All right.
So, what do you folks out there in listening land think? Should we do a new number one? I don't think we'll restart our numbering system, but it might be just like, hey, this is the point of entry. This is listen first sort of thing.
Yeah, because now that you think about it, you're like, oh man, I like it. I wonder what you people think.
All right, here's another one for you and for the audience. We're not too far away from episode number 50 because this is number 38.
Oh.
So what should we do for episode 50? I think we've had some special guests on the landmark.
Yeah.
But who would we get as a special guest?
I don't know. Or we could put it on YouTube and maybe have a little video or something for once.
Oh, well, you're going to come into one of my other ideas.
Okay. But then when they see how hideous we are, they'll scare them away.
Yeah, I think we could put it on YouTube with no actual video.
Maybe just still images that, what do you call it?
Yeah.
Kind of drift in and drift out or whatever.
And it'd probably be the logo because that's all we do.
Yeah.
We pimp that logo everywhere we go.
What?
When we walk around, that's the tracks you see of our footprints. They're just Long Con logos.
Pretty much. It's like all my pictures in Italy, or half my pictures in Italy, and all my pictures when I went to Florida recently, I've got a Long Con hat on, a Long Con shirt on, Long Con flip-flops,
Shame-filled self-promoters.
Shameless.
Shame-filled. I hate self-promotion.
I love it. I'm kidding.
Do you?
I really don't have an opinion one way or the other.
It's almost, I don't want to say like begging, but it's kind of like that. If you had to walk up to somebody and go like, hey, I could really use $5 right now or whatever. Like, I need to get some gas in my car. I'm completely broke or something. It's kind of like, would you like to come to my con? Would you like to listen to my podcast? Let me impose upon you.
Let me tell you, dear listener and Eddie, as many times as I've worn this hat and my shirt, I have not once had anyone come and go, oh, the Long Con, would you tell me about that? So, I mean.
I think maybe once in the history of things, or somebody will be like, hey, that's a cool shirt. And then you can give them the spiel.
Well, I had a guy that, he liked the wax seal, and he's like, oh, the wax seal, that looks pretty cool. But he didn't follow through with like, so what is the Long Con? And I didn't, offer up. So, but I did get one like, oh, that's a cool wax seal or whatever.
So back to episode 50.
Yeah.
If we had somebody
Mm-hmm.
who I would say, my guess is who we would. Well, go ahead. I'll tell you what I would have guessed after the fact, just off the top of your head. What would you say?
That I think you're going to say, or
Who would you want
who would I want?
in the grand scheme of gaming? And I'll see if we're anywhere near each other, because I got mine written down, so I'm not cheating, folks.
This is killing me because as usual, you flat-footing me.
Okay, I'll give you one of mine.
Okay.
Reed Sanfilippo.
Oh yeah, see that'd be cool. I
And
want
that-
a game with Reed Sanfilippo.
That hopefully will lead you to your next one.
Beatty again.
Nope.
Okay, which Beatty's a cool guy, and a ton of fun to game with, and just an all-around hell of a nice fella. We've already gamed with Brendan LaSalle, and we had him on a podcast, and you asked some brilliant questions that I sadly slept through. Dear listener, I'm too old for Midnight Madness games at the con. Tell me another one of your other ones.
Mike Evans.
Oh yeah, well see, yeah. So
Duh.
people
Duh,
that,
indeed.
yeah, I mean, yeah, because that's the deal. Is like, why did we want to have Beatty on? Because we had played his product, we're impressed with it, and thought, man, it'd be cool to have a conversation with him.
And he's generally just a cool dude.
No, absolutely. And Brendan, he's really awesome. Brendan was so nice when he came, and I'd love to have either one of them back to the con or whatever. But no, Mike Evans seems like a really neat guy, and I like if anybody's listening to this, I've gushed about Hubris, his product that would be good to use with any system or anything. It's just a really neat piece of gaming paraphernalia. Mike seems like a neat guy. And again, Reed, I don't know much about Reed, but I really love what he did with America. And I've seen pictures. He seems like a really eccentric,
Yes, indeed.
kind of neat guy. But see, I love that because I could tell y'all stories about. Anyway, yeah, I like some eccentric people. So.
Well, just for the long con, I've been really kicking over the idea or whatever, like, could we sponsor Reed and or Mike Evans to come to one of them in the near future?
They're pretty far flung. So, but I guess if we're paying for it, thing about it is, like I was telling some other day, we've barely ever broke even. I think thanks COVID, the one long con right before COVID hit, we actually made a few pennies for once, and then thanks COVID, but so we really don't have that deep. I mean, we'd have to dig into our own pockets, but if we want them bad enough, I guess we would, skip some McDonald's burgers or something.
But that's like for us, like NTRPG is kind of Doug's party.
Oh, pretty
and you're lucky
much.
enough to be invited to it.
Yeah.
If there's somebody that we really were like, I want to meet this guy or I want to hang out with this guy, and if we pay for his weekend, we can make it happen. So it's something for us to think about.
No, that's a neat thought. That is neat, yeah.
But we're kind of some indie guys. We support those indies. It's not like, oh, well, you can't get, I don't know, Chris Perkins or I can't even think of the Critical Role guys.
Yeah, or even Kurt Gould that we've had beers with at NTRPG. He's from WotC, and he's in their D&D division. He's a cool guy,
But there's some guests that we couldn't get. We won't, obviously we don't have to BS you because you're like, yeah, you guys are not in line to.
We don't have the, I don't know what you call it, muscle.
Access.
Or whatever. That's beyond our pay grade or whatever,
And so is it like, well, you really don't want to talk to those guys? That's not like your high hope because it's the impossible dream, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, yeah, you're indie guys, so you can talk to indie people, but I like to think in our heart of hearts, that is who we really are and who we would want to talk to.
Well, no, and that's the crazy thing was people had recommended you should have this one or that one as a special guest, and we're like, man, we're not gonna.
Wheaton.
Yeah, no. Anyway, but we were like, no, because I could care less about hanging out with gaming, talking with some of these people. And some of them, I just don't know them. I know I'm in gaming, but I'm the old dog, and I don't know who Cool Cat McSnicklesnack is or whatever, who's the hot new thing in gaming on the internet or whatever, like Phoenix Satine or whatever. I'm aware of her, and I'm sure she's a wonderful person. But it's for us when we at one point said, hey, man, because call me crazy, but I reached out to Brendan one time and said, hey, is there any way you could come to our con? And I thought he's going to go, you're a little podunk con, whatever. And I just forgot about it. And like some months later, I got an email going, well, I talked to the big boss, the Dark Master, and yep, I've been given the go-ahead. And I just sat there for a second and blinked and read it and reread it, and then it finally soaked in that, holy crap. And I called Eddie up, and I was like, dude, we got LaSalle.
And we danced around.
Yeah, and so then we're like, well, if we can get LaSalle, shit, dream a little dream, and next thing you know,
yeah, we got David Beatty.
And so, yeah, I mean, I totally think we could probably get one of those guys to come. But I know when I've talked to Reed about, say, coming into RPG, because I figured he was like, man, that's a long drive from, where is he at, Wisconsin or something. So I was like, yeah, I don't blame him. I mean, he didn't besmirch NTRPG, but he was just like, I mean, and it was almost kind of like if it was one of these ones where he would get more exposure, it would be worth the time, trouble, hassle, and all that kind of stuff. But anyway.
So that's all I'm saying. I mean, we kind of have to see who would you, the audience, want to hear from.
Again, feedback.
And is it somebody that we would want to talk to or that we could talk to?
We can talk to anyone.
No, we can't. They won't answer the phone for us.
Well, I mean, yeah, our people will call your people.
And then the other thing is, it's a lot more convenient if we catch them at the con or person to person, because this is a better person to person thing.
Oh, sure.
I think our interview with Beatty was fantastic.
Even though it was on Anchor.
But we'd already met him in person and had a few beers and had a good rapport built up.
Oh yeah, and he's just very affable and all shucks.
Because I think of the people that we could get, maybe James Ward.
Oh yeah,
would be like the big get where it's old school, so we would be like, oh yeah, I do want to talk to you.
That would be cool.
And we can get access.
I like Mr. Ward.
That's the access we can get.
We had the pleasure of gaming with him, and also when he was still coming into RPG, probably the last time I approached him about autographing a book. Man, he was so nice and so approachable, literally and metaphorically, and signed my book and told me some neat stories about the product and its development. And just, it was one of those moments. Well, I mean, it sticks with me even now. I'm getting a little misty over here.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that would be cool if we could get Ward.
But we'd have to end up probably doing that over Anchor or something like that. And how technologically savvy is he?
Well,
and
we've talked about going back to Wisconsin though, and maybe
that
if
would
we
be nice.
Said to him, Mr. Ward, while we're there, could we please have an interview?
And then the other thing is, how much do you guys even care about interviews? Because this is not an interview show. This is the Matt and Eddie show.
Yeah, and honestly, it's sad to say, if this is some of our listening base is younger, they might be like, James who? But do your research. Mr. Ward is one of those real early on movers. Like basically, he produced the very first science fiction role-playing game ever. If that doesn't have some gravitas, well,
Yeah, so if you want us to talk to YouTube's Jake Paul or something, sorry.
Who?
Exactly. We're not doing, there's just certain people that hold no interest for us, and even though.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to belittle these people. Matt Mercer is probably a hell of a guy, and he's done a lot to
further the hobby.
Yeah, further the hobby, but no, I don't really, no.
Right. Just like some of the younger viewers might be like, I wouldn't care to talk to James Ward at all.
Yeah.
Just because it doesn't have that, it wasn't of your childhood or your early play experience or shape your gaming the way that Matt Mercer does. And you'd be like, I'd cut off my arm to talk to you. Might, but I wouldn't. And would you listen to an interview with Matt Mercer? I probably wouldn't. That wouldn't be something I would go out of my way to find.
I think
so. It has to be something we can do and something we would be interested in doing.
He did one with, he took over David Letterman's job, comedian out of the Carolinas.
Oh, Colbert.
Colbert did a thing with Mercer, kind of a little, wasn't even necessarily an interview, but the two of them cutting up and goofing around. And Mercer seemed like a really nice guy, and I watched it for a minute.
See, I'd do an interview with Colbert.
Yes, I like Colbert. I like him in spite of himself.
And, I mean, as far as like, you old grandpas, I mean, Reed Sanfilippo and Mike Evans, they're doing game stuff today. They're not doing old stuff. So, I mean,
check their stuff out. It's good stuff.
Yep. What is it? America?
Yeah, American or American, yeah.
So, check that out. We highly recommend those guys. We enjoy their stuff a lot.
Yeah,
and that's who we would want to talk to, the people that we enjoy their stuff a lot.
Yeah.
And not that we don't enjoy Critical Role. We're not trying to poop on them. That's no. It's not something that we've gotten into as grumpy old men.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right.
Yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da.
Is this? Am I supposed to?
there's supposed to be no awkward silences because of Matt.
Well, that's
as
right.
I'm looking down to find out what the next thing I'm talking about
Well,
is.
it's hilarious because normally it's like you feed me something and I expound upon it. So we're going a little different today, which I kind of like. So yeah.
Just to beat the long con to death a little bit more right here, because I know we were talking about it. I was talking about it with our new friend from California, and it's like, would you come? Because he's like, I wouldn't come to the long con, and I would think 9 out of 10 people that have to really travel any distance wouldn't.
Right.
Because why would you?
Yeah, but what about our old buddy out of? We used to have our friends out of Arkansas. They drove a little ways. I mean, it's not the other side of the country, but you know.
Well, we had special guests who drove from Wisconsin this time.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
So I mean, the thing is.
Oh, quick plug: Chris Clark, Inner City
Games
or whatever.
Redux.
Yeah, it's out. Yeah, I think the Kickstarter is still going, maybe, or just finished.
Yeah, but it's pretty close to being
Pretty
done
close.
if it's not.
But yeah,
it's funded.
It's really neat though. It's got a real history to it as a game. And if you've ever wanted to do some gaming where you're like basically Grand Theft Auto, but role playing at a table or playing the cops that are chasing after them. Boom.
And Chris Clark is somebody that would be a fantastic interview too.
That's a thought. Yeah, I like Chris. Is just a really nice guy, and we had a talk around the fire pit at the last con. Just really nice guy, very approachable. Yeah, super good guy. Anyway, carry on, sir.
Okay, so the long con. It's kind of like, why are you listening to this podcast coming out of Longview, Texas? But if we've got you this far, contemplate on it wherever you are in the sound of my voice. That you could come to the long con, and you go, why? I might travel for Gen Con, but I ain't traveling for no long con. Well, the long con is almost the opposite of Gen Con when it comes to the hustle and bustle. If you want to go and cosplay somewhere, if you want to run around and see and be seen and that sort of thing, go to Gen Con, have a great time. I have no hard feelings. But if you just want to game for a weekend, I don't think you're going to find any better gaming than you will at the long con. And that's not to say we're fantastic. It's just, I don't know, the great equalization of man or what have you. It's about the games, man.
Well, a lot of the people that run games at our con, they're people I've actually gamed with before. They're passionate about gaming. And they've mastered, many of them, the art of gaming.
And they're not doing it for a badge. They're not doing it for a hotel room. They're not doing it to show off and go,
get a free T-shirt
I've got
or something.
50 road crew games or something. Not that there's anything against road crew. That's just the first example that came to the top of my head.
Yeah. How dare you, sir?
It's not for outside benefit. It's for the love of the game.
The love of the game. And we always talk about what? The love of the game. Why do we do this? The love of the game. A lot of the people, and you make a good point, that run at our cons genuinely love the game, and a lot of them have.
9 out of 10 people running at Gen Con are probably doing it for the love of the game, but sometimes you kind of get screwed in a spot, and you're like, this guy really phoned it in because he wanted to hit his 5 games for the weekend, so you get the free hotel room or this, that, and the other.
Oh yeah.
So I've had many of our special guests say that they have never seen a con that is as focused on games as we are.
I'm so it's just not my nature to toot my own horn or whatever.
Toot.
But yeah, we got some serious accolades from Beatty and particularly Brendan, who's been to a ton of cons.
That's what I was going to say.
That guy is like, he's a professional con game runner for Goodman Games. He's been to an obscene amount of cons in other countries and here. And I don't want to talk out of school, but on the sly, he told us he'd put us like in the top 5 or something. And I was humbled, flummoxed, boggled. I couldn't believe it,
Yeah.
But anyway.
So people are there for the game. So like I said, this is definitely a place, there's not the hustle and bustle. It's like going to Vegas for a convention or something. Why would you go there where there's everybody when you can go to the small town? And that's what you're going to get for a weekend. You're going to get jam-packed with games.
And if we can get Robert back, he always runs some really diverse, interesting kind of games. Because that's me. If you ever talk about why go to con, well, one reason, I want to check out Numenaria. I've never played it. I'd like to try it out. There's probably no one in your local neighborhood running Numenaria, but you can go to a con and probably find, at least at our con, like Robert O., he runs something new and different and interesting, seems like every year. Like I said, he's like a renaissance man of gaming,
Yeah.
But anyway.
But going back to something that Brendan LaSalle told us while
Yeah.
he was there,
Sure.
he was like, "You guys have a much better vending area than you have any right to." So we do. We get a good amount of vendors too. That's what
And
we're
you're not
about.
elbow to elbow. I've seen pictures of some of these bigger cons that their vending room or area, it's this crush of humanity, and that would make my skin crawl being all elbow to elbow with a bunch of, no.
But our vendors too go to the big shows. I mean, we've got people that set up here that have set up at Gen Con.
Who are our vendors this year at Long Con? Or in spring, this spring, I mean.
Way to catch people flat-footed, indeed.
Uh-huh.
We've got Game Night Games,
Uh-huh.
which is 3D printing.
Mm-hmm.
We've got,
New Comet,
and we've got our good friend David Donahoe.
Etten Games.
So that's it so far for Long Con Spring.
No. What you forget about? She didn't call herself Crystal Elf anymore. What is she these days? Oh, okay, yeah.
I assume she's coming,
Oh,
but I
that's
haven't
right.
got money in my hand
Oh,
yet.
that's right. Oops, I'm giving
And-
free press.
Probably Durthan's Dice Bags.
Oh yeah,
I think he just said he got the time off.
that's right.
So
And
we'll have those guys.
Drew's bags are phenomenal. I hope his wife comes back with those cupcakes. They were delicious.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
But we have Frog God a lot of times.
yeah,
And Frog God does set up at Gen Con and other big conventions.
Very nice guys. Great bunch of guys.
And we've had people tell us that they go to the bigger conventions and make more money here
Mm-hmm.
because
There's too much competition.
our folks are concentrated on the games.
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody cosplaying and dancing around in the hallways. Everybody's in a game. They're taking care of their business.
Yeah.
And then they want to buy gaming accessories and game stuff and
Mm-hmm.
books.
Well, another thing was we have a designated time in between games for you to be able to get food or interact with the vendors. I've been to cons where the way the game schedule played out, there was no time to interact with the vendors. And I'm like, well, I feel bad for the vendors, and I'm a little frustrated because I like to pour over the stuff and find those little diamonds in the rough and whatnot. So, yeah.
So, yeah, not every one of our vendors has always had an amazing time raking in the cash.
Yeah.
But if you're selling game stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you do good. If you're trying to sell auto parts, something like that, this might not be your audience.
You think he's joking, but not entirely. Anyway, it's people have like, I want to be a vendor at your RPG gaming convention. Okay, you're selling what? Okay, we'll take your money.
We will take your money,
Yeah, we're a struggling little con, but
and we'll convert it into goodies for our attendees.
well, that's one reason why we never made any money. Because anytime we have made a penny, we put it right back into goodies. We love to give stuff
And
away.
we don't want to make money.
No, good
It's not
Lord, no.
just like some people will go like, you guys are idiots. You're the worst businessmen. You're supposed to make money at this. No, we're not. If we wanted to make money, then we'd be a Comic-Con or a pop culture con, and
Yeah.
we would have the cosplay kids dancing through the hallways. We're focused on the gaming,
Yeah.
and in turn that reflects, and our attendees are focused on the gaming, and it's about a weekend of games. And hopefully this was not too much of a long con advertisement,
Oh yeah, we have kind of rambled
because
about
it's not, this whole thing wasn't, I hope. It was a lot of trying to get your feedback.
Yeah, we want your
gauge your
feedback.
interest, and thank you guys for listening. Whenever we hear
Yeah.
from you, we're
Oh,
always
man.
impressed, and
Makes our day.
we do the happy dance.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just to toot our horns way too much or overinflate our importance, this is something I like to do so that you do feel like you're sitting at the table with us.
Yeah.
You always have some friends that you can tune into, no matter how bad your day is going or how
That's right.
boring your drive is. There's two idiots at a table in Texas that will do their best to tell you some stupid jokes.
Crack on each other.
Yeah. And make you laugh and get you through your
Exactly.
day or your drive or what have you.
It's like you're sitting at the other tables here at the dining room table.
And just like me, you can't get a word in with Matt.
Well, you've had all kind of words today, sir. Oh my.
I'm getting used to doing the podcast on my own.
Well, how was your day, Eddie? Well, Eddie,
It's the best.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're going to go into the categories of
Dun,
pop culture,
dun, dun.
unless you've got anything else you want to talk about.
No, sirree. I'm primed.
Okay, we're going to start off with books, and we're going to start off with a book that both of us have read, so we're coming to
Well,
the table with something
technically,
to talk
this
about.
isn't a book. This is a comic.
It's in the books category. We do
Really?
books and comics together.
I know.
Well, do you have a book you want to talk
No,
about
I'm
first?
giving
then?
you a hard time because when I've jumped within a category, you're like, we were doing TVs. Why'd you mention that movie? Well, it's a TV movie. I was confused anyway. Okay.
This is when we need a video cast for that disapproving head shake that I'm giving you.
I know. They can feel it. It comes across.
So as you listeners already know, and Matt maybe not even so much, I have now handed him the game Mortal Shell.
Yep, I have it right here in my hot little hand.
So you've probably already heard me talk about it, and I've told Matt what he needs to do with the buggy situation with save games. So hopefully we'll get his feedback for the next one, and we'll have something very interesting to talk about. But I recommend the game, so I think you'll have fun with it.
Cool.
Now, for something else that we've actually got together and done, we read the comic, or at least parts of the comic, Transmetropolitan.
A comic by Warren Ellis and Derek Robertson. And it was the Helix imprint originally, which is DC Comics, but eventually they folded it into Vertigo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just a little bit of back stuff there. It was started in 1997. It ended in 2002. It had a 60-issue run. It's, as far as what genre, it's cyberpunk, transhumanist, and very dystopian. Would you not agree with that?
It's an interesting week for Cyberpunk then.
Yeah. It's the adventures of Spider Jerusalem, infamous renegade gonzo journalist. So.
Gonzo journalist.
Yeah. Well, you notice he's like bald-headed and smokes a lot. You know anybody else who was described as a gonzo journalist who was bald-headed and smoked a lot?
So I think it's Hunter S. Thompson.
In the
comic
post,
book.
yeah, dystopian or whatever.
So how far did you get?
Well, I'm gonna tell myself we had talked about just reading a few issues or whatever.
Yeah, we weren't going to try and finish this 60-issue series or what have you.
I went a little crazy. I went 8 issues deep, so because I was enjoying it.
And I think I went about 3. There's one arc at the beginning where they go into that, I don't know, slum town or whatever
Angels
you call
8. Yeah. Anyway.
And he runs into the guy that he used to know that was heading up this, I don't know, you want to call it political movement?
Yeah, where they're changing their metabolism from human to alien, or their genetics or whatever.
So that short little arc wrapped up. So I think that was maybe 3 to 4.
Yeah, it was like 3 issues for that little initial arc. Yeah.
I don't like it. Obviously, you said you got to 8 and you're liking it. I don't like it. I couldn't read it.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that's good to know.
Now, Hunter S. Thompson, big fan.
Yeah, me
really
too.
like reading his books.
Oh, yeah.
I
Where
like
the
the
Buffalo
movies
Roam.
Where the Buffalo Roam and Fear and Loathing.
Oh yeah.
Bad Country.
Yeah, Bad Country is Bad Country.
But Transmetro is too mantic and frantic for me.
Okay.
It's
all over the place.
Yeah, it's got a weird frenetic energy that I don't know. It feels like I'm on drugs.
Yeah, well, there you go. Maybe that's something that was part of the writing, was trying to make you feel like, because again, like Hunter S. Thompson, he's on all these different drugs and
He's out of his mind. It's definitely supposed to be Hunter S. Thompson in the future.
Right, pretty much.
With all the drugs.
All the drugs and the smoking and all over the place, and passionate, but yet a real bastard. Which Thompson was supposed to have been a real bastard in real life, But
does he come? Does he come across as a bastard in his books and movies?
No, not so much.
Whereas Spider Jerusalem, what an arrogant ass.
He's an ass.
He's an
ass.
unlikable protagonist to me.
Oh, he is.
Like, I'm rooting for Hunter S. Thompson.
Right,
He's doing all kinds of illegal, immoral stuff, but I'm still rooting for him to win.
Yeah.
Spider, he's just so cocky and
but I will
entitled
tell you,
and Mary Sue sort of.
But I'll say this is that even the first initial issues, I was like, well, this is okay, but for this to have been so popular and have you're more of a comic guy, and you've said, oh, this is one of those ones that is on everyone's list. So it's kind of like where you've had to talk to me about, because I'll give out after a couple episodes of something, oh, man, go a little farther, or you go, man, I'm lucky I'm a completionist. Luckily, I've kind of muscled through. Well, I'm telling you, as I went along, for the most part, I've enjoyed it, and it's kind of it's hit and miss.
Is it getting better?
I will say yes, but I will say you knew this was written in the 90s, because you can't write a comic in the 90s without bashing religion at some point. It seems like I worked in a comic book store in the early mid 90s, and I read a lot of indie topics then, and of course every one of them had to, knock religion or something, whatever. But anyway, they had one episode where, of course, Spider Jerusalem takes on this one part of town that's like religious part of town, and he's kicking people's stuff over and slapping them in the face or whatever. But so I was like, ugh. But there was one issue, number 5, where he watches television all day. Mm-hmm. It was a hoot. And it's funny, that was done, think about, before the Rick and Morty episode where they're watching TV.
Like cable.
Yeah. And so I kind of could draw some parallels, and I almost wonder, nothing's truly original. And then, so that one was pretty good. But I tell you, when it really kind of got you really thinking, it was kind of deep. Number 8, where it's like a frozen brain. Because there are people out there right now that their brains are frozen on nitrogen. And that with the hope that in some future there'll be some cure for whatever ailment they have. Well, you've never really stopped to think about that, have you? Like, well, what happens when they get woke up 100 years from now and the world has changed dramatically?
Yeah, and all your loved ones are dead.
Yeah.
And why would they bother to wake you up?
Yeah. So in this case, they bother to wake the person up. But then it's like, well, you have no money, you have no means, you have no family, and it was a really neat issue because it got me thinking. And you see how this plays out for the person. It was really thought provoking. Check that one. Check that. Number 8. If you don't read anything else, read number 8.
Well, I hope this isn't a spoiler, but it's been said before. It's like, well, if you were cryogenically frozen, why would they thaw you out? Probably for slave labor.
Yeah.
Why else would they waste any resources on you? Because you have nothing. You're pretty much a nobody. Nobody's going to miss you.
Right.
So they could just press you into service and make you do whatever.
Wow, that's a creepy thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those are some deep thoughts.
Watch out, listeners.
Yeah.
Cremation.
One day.
Don't freeze yourself. Burn yourself.
That's right. Freeze dried. Anyway, like coffee. All right. But anyway, yeah. So you got 2 very different opinions on Transmetropolitan.
Well, I don't think I have to establish my indie cred.
Oh no.
Because there are like Sandman and The Max, and there's lots of smaller press stuff that I like.
Oh yeah.
But I'll turn around and go, I've been keeping up with Thor, Iron Man, and the Immortal Hulk, which are, the big books of the big major publisher, but they're all pretty good right now.
Cool.
And Throg, the Frog Thor, do you remember that back in the day? Well, he's like in the multiverse of Thors. He was in there, him and, the dog Lockjaw from the Inhumans. Yeah, they're fighting the insane Donald Blake, who's kind of got like super Thor powers. And that was really, really good issue right there. So I'm always down when Throg shows up.
Yeah, and I like Lockjaw. He was one of those little bit of nostalgia from my childhood as far as characters. I liked old Lockjaw because it seemed like he clamped down.
Protector of the pond, for Throg. But the Lockjaw teleporting everywhere.
Remember, like he bit down on somebody's arm and then teleported or something one time. And he's a cool character.
Here's something that you might have read some of too: The Walking Dead.
I have not read. Well, that'd be a lot. Actually, I have read some of their comics online. I have, absolutely, just to see the differences between the comic and the show. So you've been reading that?
I think I might have read the first 10 or so, and that's another one that I couldn't get into.
Yeah.
Maybe if I'd read the comic before the show, but so much of the show is already ingrained in my head. Like, oh, here's this character, and you're like, I hate that character.
Well, I hate how they took a lot of the best lines from a number of really cool characters and gave them all to Daryl.
And there is no Daryl in the
There's
comics.
no Daryl in the comic.
So you're not like, yay, Daryl showed up.
Yeah. So, anyway.
And there's a lot. I think the cast transition is a lot faster. Like, oh, okay, this guy was here and he died in one issue, and then bang, here's 4 more names to learn, and they're dead. And there's a lot more turnover. And the plot moves a lot faster than the show. Because just what I read in that first several issues, you're like, that's like 2.5 seasons or something. They're covering a lot of ground.
Oh, yeah.
But it was good, but I already have like a Walking Dead aversion that's kind of played out. It's almost like Star Wars to me. You'd have to twist my arm. There's new good Star Wars stuff out there, but you really have to force it on me to get me to watch it or whatever now.
Yeah, that was the thing with getting me to watch the Train to Busan or whatever, because I'm thinking, man, the whole zombie thing's played out, and it wasn't like, oh, how they turned the whole thing on its ear. It's groundbreaking. It's a zombie outbreak on a train. And I'm like, okay, it's a little different, but it's not, it's still a zombie outbreak. But
And in the great zombie vampire debate, I'm definitely a vampire guy.
oh, yeah. Yeah. Me?
Yeah.
I have no opinion.
Ugh. Disgusting.
Whatever, Switzerland.
You're lukewarm. I'll spit you out.
Yeah. The point is, I mean, I think the vampires thing got played out too.
It did, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, okay.
So if this was 1990, I'd be like, let's watch a zombie show.
Yeah.
But it's just the rotation of things.
when
But if I
was-
had to choose, I would rather have vampire media instead of zombie media.
So like,
That's more appealing.
So
to
you're
me.
like a big Twilight guy. You like your glittery vampires. I could see that.
I was down with all the Interview with Vampire Lestat, Anne Rice stuff back in the day.
So-
Vampire, the role-playing game.
Yeah. Were you freaked out like everybody else when they first cast Tom Cruise?
No.
Yeah. He did a great job.
Yeah.
I mean, he blew some people's minds.
I think the bigger thing might have been Brad Pitt. Just because I think, and I'm not tracking Brad Pitt's career, but I think that was like one of his big breakout roles.
Yeah, I think it was. But people the other day on Reddit were talking about like who's a star that, like what movie changed your opinion? I had no opinion about Brad Pitt. I just thought he was just some pretty boy that'd be a flash in the pan.
It was kind of like, here's this nobody with Tom Cruise. It's like, I
Yeah.
think Tom Cruise is going to nail it, but I don't know who this guy
Yeah.
is. I wasn't hating on
But
it.
Fight Club is where I was
Yeah,
like,
Fight
okay,
Club's
Brad
great.
Pitt's cool. That was where I warmed up to Brad Pitt.
No, I liked him with the Interview.
Yeah, he wasn't bad.
Louis, always whining. Such a great line.
Yeah, yeah. No, Tom Cruise was phenomenal in that.
Okay, as we work our way between pop cultures here,
Woof. Yeah.
do you have any more books, comic books, etc.? Because I'm about to straddle the line here.
Oh my, you straddler. No, that's it.
Okay, for comics, do you remember the TV show Kolchak, the Night Stalker?
Oh yeah, man.
So, just stumbling through this little repository of comics, I noticed that they did have Kolchak, the Night Stalker.
Yeah, that was a comic.
So, do you remember? This is probably a 2000s something comic, because I think Kolchak was the 70s.
Yeah, that was the early 70s.
Oh yeah, okay,
Yeah,
mid
the
70s.
TV show. I think early mid
Maybe
whatever.
movies anyway.
I know it was in the 70s because I remember watching it on like the late show years later or whatever.
But I think there were 2 movies and a series.
Mm-hmm.
So do you remember the original movie? He's tracking down a vampire
I believe so. Yeah.
in Vegas.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So that's the one they turned into a comic.
Oh,
So yeah, check it out. It was a novel originally.
really?
That might be an interesting thing to go back and read too. But I discovered Kolchak in the 2000s, well after, and it's Darren McGavin,
Yeah, I was gonna say is
which is the dad from Christmas Story.
and was also the dad in Billy Madison, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
have to remember because those
The order.
Happy Madison.
Yeah.
That is pretty much it right there.
Yeah. Pretty
One
much.
of those 2 movies.
Yeah.
But talking about that, he is the reporter Carl Kolchak, which is always stumbling into one problem after another. His editor's always fed up with him. It's like, we can't publish this. And it's one of the major influences on the X Factor, or X-Files, should I say.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
do you remember the show from back in the day? Have you seen it recently?
I haven't seen it recently. It's kind of like so many things that recently I've went back to these things from my childhood that I have such nostalgia for, and I see them and go, ugh, So no, I probably don't want to see it because I have fond memories of it, but that's from a long time ago.
So the comic was pretty good, but like I said, it just recreates the original movie. But I would definitely say go check them out.
Yeah,
I really enjoy it. As a matter of fact, my whole family does.
really awesome.
Even my young teenage at the time, I think, or younger son, even he liked it. It's very Monster of the Week.
Yeah.
So you can watch one episode and go about your business. You don't have to sit down and binge watch the whole thing. But nah, I really, that's one of those shows I like.
And
this
liked-
comic gave me an excuse to talk about it.
Yeah, I liked him as the reporter. I liked his character and how he played him. He's very likable, I would think.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever.
Well, he's
It's Kolchak,
he's definitely about getting to the truth, regardless of whom it hurts. Like, we shouldn't tell people this; they'll panic. No, the truth should be told.
Yeah, the truth is out there.
Yeah. So I mean, he's always running afoul of the officials who are like, maybe we shouldn't tell the town there's a vampire on the loose. You see how they did with one virus.
Yeah. All right. Anyway.
Okay. TV shows. Make the full transition now. You got any TV to talk about?
TV shows. So it's funny. I think that shows. Gosh, it has been a month. The last time we were talking the podcast, I was kind of poo-pooing a number of things, and one of the things I think I poo-pooed kind of was Deadwood. Well, the irony, folks, the irony. A few days later, my wife is like, "Hey, while we have HBO Plus,
I love Deadwood.
A friend of mine, was saying there's this great show we should watch on HBO. I was like, what's it called? And she goes, Deadwood. And I just grinned real big. She's like, what? I said, yeah, let's watch it, And yeah.
And did you tell her? My friends have been trying to get me to watch it for years and years.
I said, Eddie absolutely loves this. So that's another recommendation. And it's really good. And it's funny, finally seeing that episode in the context. Well, when he lays into the guy and says all that just avalanche of profanity, that guy deserved every bit of it. He's a jerk, But just seeing that out of context, just the one episode to just ironically stumble onto on YouTube or something, I'm like, oh my gosh.
You think it's just salacious for being on HBO?
Yeah, whatever. And still, HBO is loving the fact that they can show boobies and use a lot of raunchy profanity. And Al Swearinger is such a scumbag. The stuff he says and does. Ian Shane.
Yeah, Nick Shane.
Yeah, he is a brilliant actor, and he's phenomenal in that. But
so how far have you gotten?
They're coming out the other side of the plague of the
season 1, season 2.
Oh, no, we're still in season 1.
Okay.
Some things we'll devour. This we're kind of trying to pace ourselves a little better. So, and I've been busy as shit. That's why y'all haven't had a podcast. For what it's worth, if y'all want to go, Matt's held this up. We hate that guy, but
we hate that guy.
But no, I've been working like a mug. I've been working hard.
My precious.
That's right.
But yeah, Deadwood, fantastic show. I've recommended it to you for a long time.
And
it's one of those. It's solid the whole way through.
But HBO has done so many good things. Like we talked about, Rome was one of the best things I've ever watched on TV. Let that soak in, folks. I've seen a lot of TV in 50 years, whatever. Rome for me is way up there. And then Deadwood's really good. So, I've never got to see it, but Boardwalk Empire, my friend Alvin just says that's just,
I've thought about starting it, but I've seen some clips from it where I was like, that does look pretty good, but I haven't started it either.
But I
think it's one of those things about having HBO. Now I've got HBO, I will start it, or I just canceled my HBO and I didn't watch it. So
yeah, and it's like, but now I started watching The Sopranos years ago because so many people went on about that back in the day when it was a current thing, and I enjoyed the first season or two. But typical me, about the second season, I was like, all right, this is getting kind of old in the tooth, kind of.
I like Sopranos the whole run. Now, towards what was it, the last 6th season or whatever, there was a pretty big dip and lull in there that I think everybody would agree with. But
part
overall,
where he's in ICU or whatever.
No, it's after that.
Oh,
but
wow.
Even the ICU part is kind of,
that's
you got to ride it out.
I saw that, and I was so maybe I did watch more than just the second season, but I was like, can we get him out of ICU? This is getting really old,
But I stuck with Sopranos all the way through, and I would heavily recommend that one to somebody. The one thing, out of these shows that everybody wants to recommend that I wouldn't recommend, have you ever seen The Wire?
No, but you have.
Everybody talks about how fantastic The Wire is. It didn't do it for me. I think I made it through the first season, and then they said the second season's not as good. So that might be one of those things that's like you have to try again, give it another shot. But I don't know. The Wire's the one that didn't catch for me. But I love Breaking Bad that everybody loves, and Better Call Saul.
Yeah, Breaking Bad. That's some really good. Yeah.
All right, here's one for you, just off of my stuff that I've been watching on Hulu. Did you ever try out The Orville? Do you have any idea what it is?
Yeah, I know what it is. That's sort of a Star Trek knockoff.
Yeah.
And a lot of people
Seth MacFarlane.
like it better than some of the things that have been done in recent years.
Yeah. It's probably one of the best Star Trek things in a long time, especially not being Star Trek.
And what's aggravating for people is that people are hooked on it and love it, and apparently Seth MacFarlane wants to step away from the project.
I think the thing with that is it's so much money, kind of like Rome. You only got 2 seasons of that because it was so expensive.
Right.
But Rome, man, they definitely should have done a 3rd season. They had to compress everything so much in the second season.
Originally, I think the plan was to do it over 5 seasons, and when they got ready, we're pulling the plug on it, they had to jam everything they had planned into that second season. So if it feels the second season is not as great as the first one, it feels a little rushed. You can't blame them. They basically try to pack all the.
It was like, we're going to finish this for you, or not. What's your preference? We're going to have to jam this all in, or.
Yeah. And so, yeah.
I'm glad they did it.
Oh, yeah.
And I still highly recommend it too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also highly recommending the 2 seasons of The Orville.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so, like you said, kind of a Star Trek knockoff or what have you. Because it's like, oh, there's Isaac. He's Data.
Yeah.
And there's Bortus. And he's Worf.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of equivalence. But, and also it's supposed to be a comedy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that funny.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like a dramedy or whatever you want to say.
Mm-hmm.
There's some jokes here and there, but it's not a laugh. It's supposed to be a laugh riot.
Yeah.
And it's not all stupid, silly, or whatever. Like the airplane of.
Yeah. Well, yeah, when you hear Seth MacFarlane's involved, the first thought is like, okay, it's going to be a bunch of stupid slapstick. It's going to be like Airplane, but on a space
cutaways.
Yeah.
Cutaway gags.
But no.
So there are some laughs, but it's definitely not like I'm watching this just because it's going to be hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's actually really good. Makes a lot of poignant points. Gives you some things to talk about. And I was talking with Gary H.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he was a big fan of the first season. I don't think he's got around to watching the second one. So I was kind of like, wow.
Yeah.
And I'm not a Trekkie or a Trekker.
Yeah.
I like them, but I've only watched probably the original series and most of the Next Generation or something like that. I'm not following every single thing to give you that. My point of view, where I'm coming from.
This gushing fanboy that might be, look, you're looking through that lens that, oh, this is so great. Yeah, no. Well, that's like the thing about me saying nice things about the Mandalorian is the fact that I'm not a big Star Wars fan, but I enjoy the Mandalorian. I'm not saying it's the best thing since sliced bread. But,
whereas I'm resistant to watch it, even though a million people have told me how great it is.
It's kind of on principle, probably for you, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch it. I don't want to like it.
I don't want to like it. Yeah, yeah. So Eddie's a curmudgeon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I know somewhere there's got to be at least one hardcore car. Edit this 1, 2, 3. I don't want to edit it, but I know there's some hardcore Star Wars fan listening to this.
Oh, sure.
And they're like, "You're so wrong," but that's my opinion. I'm sticking with it. That Star Wars has burned its bridges with me.
Oh, sure. After all that, other than Rogue One, everything that's been done in the last, how many years has it been now? What, 4 or 5 years is like.
Because I can't remember what's the first one of The Force Awakens.
Yeah, whatever.
For the sequels, I guess, the prequels and the sequels.
Yeah, whatever this is now.
So that very first one, if I'd been by myself, because I think I was with you and the in-laws, but if I'd been by myself, I would have jumped up at one point in that movie and walked out of the theater and never come back again.
I was upset that I spent hard-earned money on that, yeah. Rogue One was good, but that's all I'm going to say. But, I mean, like I said, to each own. You might love every bit of it and don't want you to feel
like
insulted.
What you like.
Please, yeah, you like it, great. This is where, again, we always ask for feedback. Tell us we're wrong. Send a poignant little post.
Force us to do a Mandalorian review.
Like, you guys are wrong,
If you demand it, we'll do it.
Yeah,
which Matt's already watched it, so I guess this is all on me.
Yeah, if nothing, we're whores like that,
We give the people what they want.
Exactly.
Except for interviews, in which if we don't want to interview them, we're not going to interview them. Sorry.
Right. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
All right, the last TV show I got for you.
Uh-oh.
You're going to love this one.
Okay.
Is an anime, Food Wars.
Food Wars.
Which, in an anime, you can make anything as dramatic as you want. So life or death. So this one's basically Iron Chef, Hell's Kitchen sort of competition with high schoolers cooking, because
it's got to be high schoolers.
It's got to be high schoolers. But that one was really a pretty interesting show too. I had a lot of fun with it, but it's so life or death. Like, if this isn't the most delicious dish you've ever had, you'll be out of here. You'll be a failure for life.
You'll be the laughing stock.
But it's a pretty good show, Food Wars, and that one's on Netflix. So I think we've got all of our sponsors in on that.
Talking about anime, just a quick aside. When I was doing a Google search for Bodacious to find
Bodacious
barbecue here in Longview, so that I could try to do like
reason to come to Long Con just to get barbecue.
Oh God, the best in the great state of Texas, which is known for its barbecue.
State.
That's what I said. That there is The number 4 barbecue joint per Texas Monthly Magazine is right here in Longview, Texas. But anyway, I was doing a Google search for Bodacious Barbecue, and I find Bodacious Space Pirates.
Wow.
So I had to click on that because I thought it might be something fun, but no, it was some sort of anime. So anyway,
It could have still been fun.
I'm sure it could be, but I was hoping there might be some pictures.
Have you ever watched Dirty Pair?
I'm sure I many times.
The anime?
Oh no, not the anime, but
that was really good, and I'll leave all you listeners out there curious about that. Maybe we'll bring it up somewhere down the road.
Dirty Pair. All right.
Got any movies for us?
Movies? Oh my!
And yes, this podcast is taking forever,
I
but
know,
like
I
I said,
noticed the
we haven't
time,
given
yeah.
you one in a month,
Yeah.
and we haven't sat down at the table together and chatted for a month. So.
Yes, you guys can pause this and come back.
Yep.
No, sir, I have no movies.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, well, I've been really busy because I've been on a B-D sci-fi fantasy kick lately. Of which Raygun is a great streamer for all those awful 80s B movies. But I've been too busy. I haven't had the time.
Okay, this is one that I don't think you've seen yet. That has just been kind of like on my list to watch for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Captain Marvel.
Oh, that's right, Captain Marvel.
Have you seen it yet?
Not no, but hell no.
Spicy. We don't talk politics on this podcast.
Well, how is that political, Eddie?
Why don't you want to see it?
You were saying so. Captain
then.
Marvel.
I really enjoyed it.
Really?
Yeah, really, really good, really entertaining. I know it's, man, a year
Sell
or
out.
two old.
Sell out.
Hey, one of the reasons we don't talk politics on here, and we'll edit this out, is probably one of us is more likely to wear a red tie and one of us is more likely to wear a blue tie.
What?
You figure out which is which.
Yeah.
But if you're out there listening, there's at least one person you can listen to and go like, I like that guy. He's all right. Which might be the,
Yeah.
however you lean, feel free. You've got your option here.
Well-
and me and Matt can still sit at a table together.
But isn't that wonderful and fresh in this day and age? We can sit at a table together, and no one's trying to stab anybody in the eyeball or anything. All right, carry on, good sir.
Okay, Captain Marvel. I don't want to give you a bunch of spoilers,
Please don't.
but I really enjoyed it. One thing is the movie is set in the 90s, so it's all fun and games when there's something like, what is Stranger Things? That's set in the 80s, or I'm trying to think of something like that 70s show.
Or like there's a movie I love called The Nice Guys, based in like the 70s. It's such a cool nostalgia trip just to watch it to see things from my childhood and be like, oh, I remember that haircut or that style of clothes or whatever.
Yeah, I was going to say it's all fun and games with these throwback movies until it's your childhood.
Yeah.
Until it's like, oh, hey, guess what? Remember? That's 30 years ago. And you're like,
Oh, wow.
no,
yeah.
no, that's not. Time's passing, folks.
Well, there was a thing I posted on Facebook today about there's a website that you can click on different links to see what some of the most commonly used websites looked like 10 years ago. And I thought, they haven't changed that much in 10 click. Oh, I'll be dang. Yeah, I mean, this is what, I remember YouTube looked like this 10 years ago. Yeah, it's hard to believe. And then you think, well, gosh, how long has YouTube been a thing? Oh, my gosh, like 20 years or something. Like, what? Where does the time go? Anyway, so Captain Marvel, you enjoyed it. It was a good experience.
Yep. It was a thrill ride and lots of laughs.
Well, good.
Nick Fury plays a big role in it. So if you like some Samuel L. Jackson,
Who doesn't?
then you get a lot of Samuel L. Jackson to go along with it too.
I like Samuel L.
But it was a good story, and I'm sure they're making a second one. So I will look forward to that.
Oh, if it made money, Marvel will make another one.
And speaking of that, coming out at the end of this month, being March, is Godzilla vs. King Kong.
Oh, yeah.
And Daddy is ready to see that.
This guy loves him some King Kong. Godzilla.
Yeah, anybody that's rooting for King Kong,
Good-
get out.
good-
You're on the wrong.
Get out.
This one, you can twist our arms and make us watch Mandalorian, but no,
There's a-
Godzilla all the way.
There's some pictures making the rounds on the internet probably that's me and this one in our PJs showing off Christmas gifts we gave each other. And I gave him, talk about a friend that knows their friend, I got him a Godzilla bank where the little Godzilla hand comes up and grabs the quarter and it roars, the old Godzilla roar when it does, So anyway.
So yeah, that's where my money is. So hopefully that'll be a good movie, and that might be the end of the legendary Godzilla series. We'll see.
Wow.
Which would be a little bit sad, but maybe we'll get some stuff from Toho in Japan. They'll put out some more Godzillas, but
That'd be cool.
we'll see.
Break out the rubber suit.
Well, now we're finally up to video games and games,
Dun, dun, dun.
if you can believe that. Immortal Shell, I already gave you guys a nice long talking to about that, so we'll see what Matt has to say. The other big thing that I played is Cyberpunk 2077.
Hey, that's really sort of popular right now, if you can get it to run on your computer or system.
Exactly. So you haven't played it yet. Are you eager to play it? I was
Not
looking
one
forward
bit.
to it.
No, sad to say, not really.
Is it that it's cyberpunk, like the setting? Or?
Like, I love post-apoc. Dystopian's not necessarily my jam, but now don't get me wrong, I love Shadowrun as
yeah,
you know.
that's going to come up too.
Yeah.
But did you play The Witcher 3? Have you got into it that much?
I feel bad. You bought me that, and I started playing a couple of different times, and as much as I enjoyed it, and it was good, at that time it wasn't scratching the itch I had.
Yeah. So I think if you ever get into it, to each their own, you may never get into it, but if you ever get into it, I think that would have made you excited, because Witcher 3, in my opinion, is a fantastic game, so it's like, I can't wait to see what they do next.
And it's from the same company.
Yeah. Kind of like, I love Dark Souls so much, so when they come out with Bloodborne, I was like, yay! And I love Bloodborne too.
Because it's the same company.
But when they came out with, Shikiro, Shadows Never Die, something like that one I can't get into. That they changed up the battle system so much, it's all about the parries, and it just doesn't gel for me.
No, dodges and parries, blocks and parries, forget it.
But I can get some decent parries in Dark Souls. Like there's that one Facebook video that I put up where I'm just punking the last boss with parries.
That was hilarious.
But their parry system, the timing's a little bit different. Your Dark Souls experience does not translate to where you're like, I'm automatically good at this. So, anyway, back to Cyberpunk. As you said, everyone on the internet has already killed this game. And I do not want to join the chorus of naysayers, because I am not a negative person. I am a positive person. I only say positive things about things.
Absolutely.
But I can't do it. I can't play the game in the state that it's in. So how many bugs does a game have to have before you can write it off?
Well, let me put it this way. It's that bad that within, a couple of days of release, they were offering a complete and full refund of your money. That's breathtakingly bad. I mean, the company's stock plummeted by billions of dollars or something. I mean, that level of bad.
So I stopped playing it. I said, I'm not beating my head against this wall. I think someday it will be good. I waited a few months because I was pumped up and excited to play it, but there was already word of, it's going to need patches and everything. Those patches haven't come yet. I'm on PlayStation 5, which should give it a little bit better oomph and kick because it's a PlayStation 4 game.
Yeah.
That really hasn't helped. And another thing the internet has always talked about, the character creation. Have you heard this already?
No. Do tell.
So in the character creation, you get to choose the size of your genitals.
That's an important thing.
So, of course, I think you'll appreciate this too. Whenever there's a booby scene in your game, like in Dark Souls, there's kind of a famous spider that's got a lady's upper body as the top of that monster.
Yeah.
So, of course, when that booby monster comes waltzing in, that's when somebody's going to come watch you play the game and go, oh, this is what this game's all about.
Yeah.
Or anytime there's that one sex scene in the movie, that's when somebody walks in and goes like, are you watching them dirty movies? And you're like, no, this is the one scene.
This is the 10-second sex scene in this movie, and you walk in there,
So anyway, I'm building the character, and of course my wife walks in.
And she's like, are you into like computerized gay porn or something?
So you have the option to make your peenie small, medium, or large. So of course, I'm picking the large option.
I would say every guy's going to build theirs with the smallest penis possible.
And my wife goes, that's not that big. I said, I spoil you, woman. So that might be the most fun I got out of Cyberpunk 2077.
There you go.
But it's a shooter very much at the beginning. So I'm not a shooter guy, but like Fallout. Is that a shooter game?
It kind of plays out that way depending on your play style. Remember last time when we played 76, you were a sneaky shooter, and I was the, what do you call it, super sledge, beat 'em up in the face guy. Meleeist. A lot of times I was tanking while you were hiding and shooting or whatever,
That was the best. But like Fallout 4, I mean, you can just run up and punch people, and I'm sure you could do that. You could build your character that way in Cyberpunk, but that's just kind of how it falls out at the beginning. Is you're going to shoot people. So it did have some good hacking to go back to Shadowrun, and a lot of the time when I was playing that game, I was thinking back to Shadowrun on the Sega, and I was like, they did this so well back then in the 16-bit graphics era, and it really wrapped you up in that setting and made you feel like you were in this far-flung future. Whereas I don't think Cyberpunk did that much at all. It's
really?
like,
how sad.
You're there, but it's the veneer or the sheen or the coat of paint that's Cyberpunk. I don't know. It doesn't really
pull you and draw you in.
Yeah, something about that. And I'm sure there's people that will say otherwise, but just the way that it felt to me is if you changed a few things, you could go like, this is set in medieval times, or it's a Western, or you could have set this story anywhere.
Yeah, so it's not something that really feels unique to that setting. Well, that's sad. That's a shame.
But it does have some cool hacking, and it's got these things like you can watch what other people have seen that they've filmed and go through it with different layers and analyze it. So, I mean, there's investigative stuff. So, I mean, it's good. It's got its ups, but it's definitely got its downs, and hopefully some
didn't
patches.
draw you in.
Yeah. And you know me, kind of like talking about Transmetropolitan. I read three issues and then got out because if I go too far, the completionist thing kicks in, and I'm going to have to finish it. So that's why I just had to walk away from it for now.
Well, I remember years ago I was playing Daggerfall, and there was this terrible, critical bug or something. Like halfway through, the game is unplayable, and I'd invested how many just days and days. I mean, you could play some of those Bethesda games back then, Anyway, and so I remember I finally unloaded it and gave it to Gary, and he said, so, I forgot about it. And like, what, a year later, wow, talking about really getting on the stick, there was, oh, hey, Matt, there's a patch out for the Daggerfall now. And I was like, the moment's gone. Just keep it. I don't care, And so, anyway, I hope they get off their duffs. I mean, they've made an obscene amount of money. Pay for the programmers, get after it, and get it fixed.
Well, they'll probably do the Gold Deluxe Edition or the PS5 Upgrade Edition or something like that, and that's probably where I'll catch back up to it.
Yeah.
Okay. I finally started playing the first PlayStation 5 game that I've gotten, and it is Demon Souls.
Dun, dun, dun.
The, I guess, daddy of the Dark Souls trilogy.
Remastered, huh?
Yep. But not that much has changed. I haven't seen anything beyond where I've got in the PS3 days. I think I beat the first 2 bosses. Sounds about right. So right now I've beat the first boss, and I'm working towards the second boss. The lack of bonfires is still an issue for me. I don't like making the walk of shame when it's this long. I don't mind dying in Dark Souls, but at least Dark Souls gives you the checkpoints a little more frequently. In this, it's kind of like, here's this zone. If you die in the zone, you got to do the whole zone again.
That'd be a game. No.
But it is a good game. And one thing that's interesting to me is that this game scares me. And I don't know if you felt that way when you played Dark Souls 3, since you came in at 3. Young Dark Souls, not a veteran. But with Dark Souls 2 is where I started at. That was one where I walked through the whole game pretty much with my shield up, because poop's going to hit the fan at any time.
Yeah.
And did you feel that way in
Well, there's
3?
Definitely some jump scares, because like you're in a sewer and it's creepy, and they're really good about, it's very atmospheric. I love the looking of the game, and it's very atmospheric, like you're saying, and you can kind of get immersed in, I'm in this dank, dripping sewer.
I'm in danger.
And yeah, I'm in danger. And then over here's like, oh, look, it's a treasure chest. But that's when you're like, oh, crap.
Exactly.
Is that a treasure chest? And you creep up on it, and suddenly and it's like it doesn't move. Something, this thing lurches up and leans over and bites the poop out of you. And yeah, I mean, yeah, when that mimic jumps up, oh yeah, I'm like, I've caught myself almost unplugging the controller, jumping back,
Well, when you see treasure, not just treasure chests, but like when there's the little soul gleam over there, there's like, oh, there's a little something for you to go pick up.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you really pucker up because
Yeah.
you're like, no, if you left something here for me, that's like the Wile E. Coyote leaving out the bird seed.
Little pile of birds.
You're like, there's an anvil above me somewhere.
Yeah,
5 zombies are about to spring upon me as soon as I go, oh, treasure. Once you take your eye off the prize and you lose that focus. So that is what brings me in on those games and it brings back the fear factor.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's good.
Which, yeah, that's one thing that's really cool. And I was thinking about back when we played Dark Trails, which is now Weird Frontiers with David Beatty.
Yeah.
And that was one of the first RPGs I'd played at the table in a while that I was scared for my character in it.
Yeah.
So it was just interesting to me how that's one of the, because there's not a lot of emotions you can create in a game.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really be like, I'm going to RPG this so well or make a video game that you're just like, I'm in love with this character.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's hard to do a lot of emotions in games.
Oh, sure.
So it's not like, I want to be scared. I want a horror movie or something. But that works. That's a strong emotion you can bring out in games.
And if you're doing that, you're doing something right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. Let's see. Like I said, I was running around all the time with my shield up, which in Mortal Shell, you can't do that because you don't get a shield in that game.
Ah.
So that's one thing where it's like, I didn't have that sense of fear in Mortal Shell, not to, like, spoilers or whatever, because you probably weren't scared in Dark Souls 3. Let's see.
Ah, yes. Anyway, we had all the snow. So cold.
That was, but I pretty much summed it up. I don't know if I put a bow on it there.
Oh, no, that's good.
But yeah, fear in games, fear in RPGs. Demon Souls, I'm enjoying it, but if I end up quitting on the second boss again, I won't be surprised.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we can talk about our topic, if you'll believe it.
Well, but as a quick aside, I just wanted to point out, to tell you, because we haven't had a chance to talk,
Tell me.
I had a great conversation with Brian Merchant, and I also had a really neat conversation,
guy.
yeah, with Scott Hudson about
I know that
gaming.
guy.
Yeah.
No, these are separate conversations or
Yeah, no, the separate conversations, but it was during like being snowed in or whatever. I was
different
just
topics?
I was just kind of talking to them and like, hey, how are you doing? Hope you're okay or whatever. And it's funny that kind of Brian and I, our conversation though, he's running a campaign at home right now, and his wife plays, and they play with another couple. I think he told me, and but he said he's thinking about trying a sandbox. And so if he's listened to our cast, so he knows we both talk about we've done sandboxes in recent years, and so I got me thinking about some neat topics or things from he and our conversation. And then Scott Hudson, he's doing some gaming again, I think with some couples and things. And what's funny was he's doing something interesting in that he's having some gonzo, what would people call now gonzo elements. And I thought it's really neat to see someone do that, because nowadays it seems like that's not really so much a thing. But way back at the dawn of gaming, these guys would, have like a robot or an android show up in a fantasy game or something, So he's kind of blending in stuff like that, and which I thought, man, that's awesome, And I see, you have an interesting look on your face.
This is when we need a video podcast.
Exactly. So anyway, that's got me, it's rife with opportunities for things that we could discuss in the future. So even though as much as I didn't get like direct, hey, here's something cool for the podcast, luckily having these conversations with them, just organically, I'm thinking of, oh, hey, that'd be a neat topic for the podcast.
Well, not to shoot down a topic, or since I don't know what you guys actually talked about,
Sure.
but just gonzo in general,
Uh-huh.
I would say that's, I don't know if you want to say that's the second genre or that's the second big seller. It's kind of like, do you want 5th edition D&D or do you want gonzo?
Well, no, okay, maybe I'm misspeaking myself, but I'm just saying, like, he's running, say, like a traditional fantasy game,
Right.
but then he's blending in elements of like Starfinder.
Oh, so for the, is that the system and not the setting is what you're talking about maybe?
I saw what you did there. But I think it's just, for he's doing some interesting things with his game. And apparently, he said some of his players like it. Some of them are kind of like, because I remember back in the day, if I introduced like gunpowder, I had people would go, I don't want gunpowder weapons in my, fantasy game, or something.
So we're kind of blending into the topic here, folks. So if we,
Yeah.
just bear with us. But are you talking? Is it just strictly mechanically in this case?
I don't know. Sadly, we were doing it back and forth via text. Certain things are lost.
Kind of like your game. I'm going to run it as MCC, but I'm going to bring in the vehicle mechanics from what was that card game?
Yeah. Man, you made me forget now, but yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
But we're going to play Dungeons and Dragons, but I'm going to bring in the ship-to-ship combat from Starfinder.
And that could be the case. Maybe I misinterpreted what he was saying, but at the moment I thought he was saying that he was bringing, as part of the role play, he was bringing in sci-fi elements blended in with his fantasy. And I think what I inferred from him was that some of his players liked it, some of them didn't. Because some people don't like you blending sci-fi, putting peanut butter in their chocolate or whatever. They don't want sci-fi in their fantasy.
So I'm trying to think, what was it? What is Barrier Peaks? Expedition to Barrier Peaks?
Yeah, Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, which is D&D, but it's a crashed space vessel. It's got androids, laser guns, and it's got some of the weirder creatures that were in old school D&D that in that context of them being on the ship, you go, oh, that's how these weird creatures got on a fantasy world, because they seemed kind of weird sci-fi creatures. Well, now we know how like the Mind Flayer and the Thought Devourer or whatever, that brain on legs. Yeah, you encounter some of that kind of stuff on the crashed spaceship, and you're like, aha, that's how they got part of the ecosystem or something.
And in a way, if you look at MCC, you're really just cavemen.
Yeah.
And then a robot shows up.
Right.
Which is one reason that we're not completely in love with that setting. So much as America.
Right.
Or we're more of I want to be Mad Max or Thundar. I don't want to be a caveman in the far-flung future.
Which you might think of it, Thundar is, the humans in the Thundar world are kind of, they've, what's what I'm looking for? Not degenerate, but they've sort of devolved or whatever. And I mean, he is a barbarian or whatever.
But they're still not cave people for the most. They're not like
Unga bunga,
Thank you for saying that.
You're welcome. Well, I was thinking about Captain Caveman, Captain. Anyway. But yeah, so there was that. I didn't mean to go that long about it, but I just wanted to.
That's our topic in a way.
Yeah. So I thought it was a nice segue. And then one more thing.
The other thing is to go to your gunpowder. I think I would be that guy.
Really?
That if it was just supposed to strictly be a fantasy game like D&D, I'm not the guy that's like, well, can I be I'm trying to think, because there's an Arcana thing for it. Is it Gunslinger?
I was going to say Pathfinder has the Gunslinger.
So does Unearthed Arcana for D&D. I think there's a Gunslinger class.
Sure.
And that's always like, it feels wrong to me. But if you put that in post-APOC or something, like, hey, this guy's using a sword and this guy's using a laser gun, I'm like, woo-wee, let's do it.
Yeah.
So I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's like you can put the peanut butter and the chocolate together for my dessert, but if you put it together for my dinner, peanut butter and chocolate chicken.
No, exactly. That's funny.
There are times when it doesn't work for me.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, I've been willing to go, okay, you want to be a guy. We'll say this is a very rudimentary flintlock weapon that the dwarves designed. Well, guess what? If it breaks, good luck. You got to go all the way back to the dwarven hill country to get it fixed. A. B, it's like whatever the gunpowder is, it's probably something alchemical. You have to have an alchemist make it. It won't be cheap. And then it's like also if it's a traditional musket or flintlock, you get one shot. In the heat of combat, good luck trying to reload that. So
that's probably one of the other reasons I don't really.
Yeah, because honestly, but in the end, will that be fun for you? I'll allow it, but there's going to be that level of realism, I mean, I guess if you want to go, it's a fantasy, so it just magically makes bullets and just keeps firing like a gun. Well, then wait a minute, I don't know. But that's a whole other discussion, which interesting. We got off on that. Or maybe it isn't. Okay, and then I was just going to shout out, with shameless self-promotion, we've been, again, made special guests at North Texas RPG Con, and we are humbled and just think it's awesome, and we still wondering.
When you have a 5-star podcast like this, those are the accolades you have to get used to, man.
Oh my, I'm getting the vapors over here. And then also we've been, we're going to be in the celebrity game. I'm like, wow.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's kind of neat. Anyway, thanks again to Doug and Mike, and we love North Texas. There are inspiration.
And don't forget where else we're going this month, because I have to remind you.
MagCon. No, I know. And I was talking to the wife last night. I'm going to Houston at the end of the month. Woohoo! You know, we've been invited out by Etten Games and MagCon.
David Donahoe, our good buddy.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah, he is. There's
super.
Not enough good things we can say about him.
Yeah, not nearly enough. And so we're really excited about MagCon too. Yeah, I was talking to my wife about it just last night. I'm excited about going.
I'm going to run some Barbarians of the Ruined Earth, and so are you, right?
Yep.
I'm going to run some Weird Frontiers. I got to break out of saying Dark Trails.
Yeah, I know. And that, I was thinking about that. I was like, well, now that the rules are out, official rules, I might go back to some of these cons and change up, maybe do some Weird Frontiers too, because I think a number of modules came with the.
By the way, did you get the PDF? I think they were supposed to send out a PDF.
Yeah, I got the link. So it's supposed to, I think it's got the modules in it. So with 5 pre-made modules, I'm ready to play.
So the thing is, we kicked that together.
Yeah.
Basically, Matt kicked it, and I said, instead of having to pay all the shipping again, just get the second book option.
And I'll let you pay the shipping, Matt.
What's already there.
Yeah.
But I don't get all this stuff. The extra Benny stuff either.
Yeah, all the bells and
that's
whistles.
Where you get your benefits. So
right.
I could use a copy of that PDF.
Yeah.
Or I'll have to go directly to David Beatty.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I bet you he'd probably hook you up. So anyway, a little shameless self-promotion. Plus, we're glad to mention some great cons, North Texas MagCon, you know.
And without getting political, I guess we should mention that we're both vaccinated dudes now.
Oh, yeah.
Traveling all over the world.
Yeah. So people like, you have a lot of nerve. No, we're both completely vaccinated.
So we have a lot of nerve.
Yeah.
Pray for the best. Take your precautions still.
Sure.
But
no, definitely.
Luckily, the vaccine is starting to get out there for you.
Yeah.
And that's not 100%, but it's something.
Yeah, I mean, I know the coworker was like, you think you're bulletproof now? But I'm like, well, I've been wading through this stuff for a year, and I've got the vaccine now. But I'm still wearing masks at work all day long and washing my hands like a, crack fiend or whatever. But anyway, all right. So here it comes. Dun, 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 dun.
The official topic, now that we are an hour 20 into this.
Jeez.
We missed you guys too.
Yeah. Both, let's see. Which is more important or means more to you, system or setting?
Now, this is a topic that Matt brought up, and I said, that is one of the dumbest ideas you've ever had.
Because he shoots down every idea I have. And he comes back 6 months later, it's his idea, and it's brilliant.
No, it's actually been my idea all along, so. This is when you need a video podcast again so you can see the resignation and anger on Matt's face.
Whatever. This also, I guess, needs a bullshit meter, but anyway.
I don't think we end up doing a bunch of the same topics, though,
no.
in all honesty.
Well, what's sad is...
But, I shoot down a lot of your topics.
No, almost every one of them.
I love my topics better, of course, because, like anybody, right?
Yeah, sure.
Your shit doesn't stink, and you love your ideas.
Right. But anyway...
But I think you'll judge this topic on how much we have to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because that's usually what I say. But back in the day, we didn't have this much preamble either.
We really didn't. So we try to be beefier with our
Here's another
theme.
one for those of you that are still listening. Do we even need a topic at this point?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Do you care about the topics, or you just kind of listen to us ramble? And
God bless him.
Because I'm not saying let's get away from topics, but I feel like we're at a point now where we don't have to have a topic to just...
True. Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway, let's get some feedback. So, all right. Both system and setting have importance. I've ported Shadowrun over to Champions and Cyber Sprawl Classics. So setting was the thing at that time. So as a segueing into what we're saying. So your system and setting. I really liked the theme, the setting of Shadowrun. I liked, the whole thing with fantasy elements and dystopian and blah, blah, blah. But I've never really liked the Shadowrun game system. So I'm saying, like years ago, I ported it into other systems, that setting. So you see where, and I guess you could say that the setting was more important, right? I mean, setting, the system didn't necessarily matter, but I want the flavor, But I wanted different crunch. But right now, I'm glad for, say, Black Hack and other rules like games. So the rules are more important per se right now. I can make a setting to go with my rules light system. As I've said before, like when we were both deemed roadworthy, during my roadworthy piece, I said rules can get in the way of telling a good story. So over the past, I would say 10 years roughly, I've moved deeper and deeper into the rules light territory.
You're welcome.
Yeah, well, you've kind
I
of...
think that's not...
I've known you
that's
about
my
10 years.
influence-ish, I think.
Absolutely, one of your many dark influences. But like, for instance, I'd say awesome setting, bad system, riffs. Okay, I don't alienate anybody, but riffs is really a neat world system, setting. But as far as the old Palladium role-playing, the game mechanics, not a fan. Shadowrun, again, really neat setting. Never really liked the rules that much. And basically, they come up with a number of really neat world theme books to go along with GURPS. You can keep the GURPS, but some of those theme world books, like the Wormwood one and stuff, are really neat settings, to have been used with GURPS. And I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I've never been a big fan of GURPS, Anyway, so.
Well, to go around my elbow to get to my wrist here, what I was talking about a minute ago before we drifted off was when you brought up this topic, I said, I don't care. Because I'm not that guy.
You're Sweden.
Yeah.
Or Switzerland, I mean. Yeah.
Whichever one.
Yeah, whichever one of those people.
But personally, it doesn't matter to me what we play too much. But I had a good long talk, and I told you this one already. I had a good long talk with our buddy Gary H. And man, he's definitely the guy that he cares about the system.
Very much so, absolutely.
So that's what made me go, hey, you got a topic.
Yeah, because there are people, that it's all about the crunch, the numbers, how I interact with. I'm the guy telling the story. Here, okay, I set the scene. Here's what's going on. Some people go, well, I don't care how I interact with your story. I want a good story in an interesting setting. But there's the guy that goes, well, that's important, but they want a very granular, system.
Which, to pick on Gary, he's our victim here. He is the crunch guy.
Oh yeah.
He might love riffs. If we sat down and played some riffs, he might be like, this has exactly a rule for everything that could ever occur. This is the perfect game. Whereas me, I could, and this might be where you kind of are leaning back and forth. For me, I could pretty much play a game with no rules and just go, okay, that makes sense. Write that down. That's going to be a rule now. Yeah. As we go, we'll make up rules to this. In
recent years, we've kind of seen some of that. We're like, oh, this game doesn't have a rule for that. At the table, in the moment, we kind of hash it out very diplomatically and maturely and go, all right, going forward, we always agree as player and game master, no matter who's running, that's the rule for that. And okay, carry on.
Which, to give you a counterpoint to that, maybe on the other side of Gary might be Doug at NTRPG. Because when we played with his game, he does like the rules. He likes some of the obscure rules too. Like, he's the guy that's going to be like, now roll for your age and roll, see if you got psionic powers and this, that, and the other. But he keeps his flexible as it goes. Like, his armor classes are fluid. Maybe the monster was at a 10 here, but now they've gotten to some advantageous position, or just in the heat of the moment, they're moving out of the combat just right that they get an AC bonus. So their AC goes up and down. It's not always like, does a 12 hit?
Well,
and then you're like, we figured out what the number is. No, that was before it moved over here, or before it did that, or before you fumbled and chipped your sword or something. So he keeps it a little bit more fluid. And we played his one game that he made up before D&D was out and about, where it was pretty much just war with cards. Yeah. Where it's like, okay, the swordsman has this card and the scorpion has that card. Who won? So, they just made up a rule. So that's about as free form and rule free as you can get. Oh, yeah. But which one is better? Which one would you be more inclined to play? And talking about Matt, I would say neither one. Yeah. He's not going to go, let's play riffs, and he's not going to be like, let's play card versus card combat either. Yeah.
But it's, I remember saying this way back in, gosh, that would have been, I want to think, 91. Yeah, wow. That I was talking to somebody and I'd said, the game's system is just a way for me, while I'm telling the story, for you to interact with it. And I see people that get all jazzed up about, well, I know this, and I don't blame some people. They're like, God, I had to learn that encyclopedic knowledge of 3.5 or Pathfinder. God, I don't want to have to learn some other, and like, I get that. But that's where I almost want to go, come play with me. I'm doing something rules light. And even then, a lot of times on any of these games, the larger part of the work is on the game master. I have to know all the rules. You as a player, okay, the guy walks in the room, you want to shoot him, right? Yeah, okay. So what they say, I want to shoot him. You're like, okay, you can, 20 different game systems, you're saying you shoot him. Okay. I point to a given dice, I tell you to roll it, you roll it, and I go, all right, you hit or you didn't. I mean, it's not that hard. But some people are like, well, I have to know the rules.
It's not rocket surgery.
Yeah, it's not. And it's one of those things that, like I was saying back then, I'd said to somebody about, I'm setting the table, here's the meal, or you can eat with your fork or your spoon or whatever. I mean, it's not the best analogy, but it was, yeah. But for me, it's like, which one's more important? I say through the years, it's kind of vacillated. There's some settings I would not be at all interested in, but on the other hand, if you were to go, well, but what if we use this mechanic to play it? Still not interested, and there's very few things that I've ever said. If I could tell the guy or gal has got that fire in their belly and they've got a great idea for a campaign, that excitement is infectious. Mm-hmm. And I don't care what system they're using. I'm like, man, I can tell this person's got a cool idea and they're anxious to tell this story. I want to be involved with that and play. Oh, they're using GURPS or 3.5. Well, I'm not thrilled, but I'll play anyway. But yeah.
Right. And I think somebody, which again, picking on Gary when he listens to this at some far-flung date in the future, mm-hmm. I think he is the one that would be more inclined to go, this doesn't have enough rules for me, so I'm not interested. It's a good story, but the rules don't flow right.
Yeah, and that's true. And I've over as your life goes on, you realize, well, I'm not going to judge somebody because of that. That's him. He owns it. It's his thing, and it is what it is. It doesn't mean he's right or wrong or a bad person, but I feel bad for him in that I would want to think you're going to miss out on some opportunities to play some fun gaming because you're kind of caught up in the rules, but that's part of his fun. So it is what it is. I mean, no matter how good the story is, I guess if he really just hates the mechanics, he's not going to have fun. Where other people probably would. Like I see a lot of people that show up to play games that I run that I could tell they have no clue how the system works, but they're, when their turn comes, this is what I want to do. I tell them, well, that dice, okay, and I might have to tell them 3 and 4 times, but if they don't mind, I don't mind. I know they're new to the system.
And like you pointed out, it's pretty much all the same.
Yeah.
I want to hit something. Okay, roll this determined dice, whether it's the D20 or a percentile or flipping mm-hmm. some cards like Dark Trails can be.
Yeah.
Weird Frontiers.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a matter of, okay, what do I do in this game to hit something? The general rule is always the same.
Yeah. I want to run across that tightrope.
Check for success.
Yeah, exactly.
However you make a success check.
And so this does kind of segue in somewhat, I guess. But talking about the game that we've been playing, which is Barbarians of the Ruined Earth by Mike Evans, it uses, for its kind of engine, as I always call it, the black hack. Okay, so that's the system, talking about system and setting. And so what's interesting is I'd also recently mentioned to Eddie as a topic on a goof was gaming lingo. And so it's funny I've seen websites talk about black hack is player-facing mechanics. Is it? Yeah, player-facing. And I was like, player-facing? But it's kind of like when I kept talking before about it, when I said, well, it gives player agency. Well, all kind of games give player agency. That's really not the best way to describe that. But it's this player-facing thing and even D&D has player-facing mechanics. But essentially, I go, okay, they're attacking me with a fireball. Well, how can I, as the player, evade that? Well, with a saving throw, you roll to try to roll out, duck it, whatever. So there's some player-facing mechanics in probably all these games, but in the Black Hack and Barbarians, it's exclusively player-facing. Mm-hmm. Everything that happens, the player is going to make the roll. You're attacking, you roll. The monster's attack, well, you're evading now, you roll. You're attacked by the creature's breath weapon, you make a saving throw. Literally, if I used average damage, I would never have to touch a die the whole game. And I see where some game masters would not like that, talking about rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it really is very liberating for me as a game master because there's a certain amount of time that's tied up in,
Yeah, I hate to say that only an unfair GM would not like that rule.
Yeah.
But go ahead, and this is where we're begging for feedback all through this episode. But
Yeah.
what do you think about that?
Exactly.
Are you the GM that would be like, no, I'd rather roll that monster's, because whether it comes out of my hand or the player's hand, it's still a random roll.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see the difference.
Yeah. And so I don't know about you. I want to ask your opinion on this. That's why I'm glad I made some notes here. So would you agree with this? The subtle shift in perspective keeps the focus and the spotlight where it belongs on the heroes. Do you feel like this game puts more of the spotlight on you guys and your characters, the heroes of the story?
Because I get to roll the attacks?
Well, and you get to roll the defense, and you get to roll the saving throws.
Because I get to... Are you saying simply because of the mechanical nature that I get to make all the rolls, it puts more of a spotlight on me? Is that the...
Yeah, the gist.
No.
Okay, but would you feel like since you've been playing this, do you feel like y'all guys have a little more freedom? And
Yes.
You see, so maybe...
But that's not necessarily
the mechanics.
The mechanics.
Okay.
I don't feel like, oh boy, because I get to roll for this orc trying to hit me, this is me, this is all... No. I would...
Well, okay.
But for me, like I said, it's going to feel the same whether you roll it or I roll it as the player or the GM.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing is that's kind of funny now is because if somebody's character gets killed, they did it themselves. They can't be like, that was your roll. No,
Exactly.
Yeah, you rolled it yourself,
You
buddy.
rolled it. And so I do love that. The players want to go, man, you sure are rolling a lot of crits. Nope, I'm not rolling anything. You're rolling a lot of
And
critical
think about
failures.
those times when you're rolling hot as the GM or you're rolling crappy.
And you feel bad for your players, or you're kind of aggravated that you're rolling so poorly, and this well-made encounter is not flowing very well.
It's like, oh, I didn't get three crits in a row on you. You just got 3 crits in a row on yourself.
On yourself. And so I really like that
Hang
too.
your head
So
in shame.
yeah, players don't get to be mad at me anymore. They get to be mad at their dice or whatever. So that's kind of neat. And also I think it frees up a considerable amount of my time as game master, because there's a lot of times I'd be reaching for a die or figuring something out. I don't worry about it. I'm over here telling stories.
I haven't
like
got
it.
to run Barbarians yet, but I want to, and I'm going to run it at the end of the month.
Yeah.
But as a player, so that's the only way I can talk about it, I don't feel like, oh, this is putting a lot more work on me. No, I don't feel like that. But as a GM, you're like, this is so much less work on me,
It's
which is always
liberating.
great. And it's not like, well, that work had to go somewhere. Yeah, but it's just another roll. So
And a lot of
as a
players
player, I'm
like
not
rolling
oppressed or whatever you want to say. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but so even though maybe via the mechanics you don't feel that shift in perspective, but you got to say for whatever reason you do feel that shift in perspective, though. You just cop to it that you feel like more of the attention.
It's not mechanical, though.
Yeah, but
It's not Mike Evans that did that. It's Matt that did that.
Okay.
It's Matt's story that did that.
I guess so then. Well, then I'll
I
pat
feel
myself
like
on the back.
I feel like I'm. These are more heroic characters
Yeah.
because I guess you could say the lack of mechanics in this allows you as a GM to have more freedom, to allow the player to have more freedom to do more crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to tackle that guy. Oh crap! Now I got to look up the grapple rules. Never grapple.
Yeah.
In this, it's just like make a strength check and go about your business.
Yeah, and so I love that, and that's one of those things where is that, and I'll give big kudos to Eddie. I mean, everybody at the table is great, and they're getting better about this.
But I'm the best.
But I've talked about how sometimes too much rules can constrain players to where they think I can only do what these rules say. When there's less rules like this, players start to kind of take a deep breath and realize, oh, I can think outside the box. I can do, since not everything's quantified that I can do, well, what can I do? Tell me what you want to do, and I'll tell you how we're going to educate it. What? And so Eddie's really embraced that, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to springboard off this guy's tail and do a somersault land behind the guy and kick him in the back of the neck. I'm like, oh, okay, pick up that dice and roll it, and I'll tell you what happens. And the people are like, wait, you let him do that? Yeah, why not? This is 4-color, high-flying, wild, crazy gonzo, whatever.
Or one of the things that we did early in is that I picked up a monster truck. There was a truck barreling down on us, so I was like, just pick it up.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
It's like, you're not really doing that in D&D
Yeah.
or many other role-playing games.
Yeah.
But in this game, it's something you can do.
Yeah, because one of the players was just like, wait a minute, and I'm like, You got to get outside that frame of thought.
It's not supers, but there's some super heroic stuff you can do in it.
Go watch Thundar the Barbarian. I mean,
Exactly.
Ukla at one point like kicks a helicopter and it explodes or something, and Thundar breaks chains that are like great big logging chain that I don't care. The strongest strongman contestant in the world couldn't break those chains, but Thundar did. Well, it's a Saturday morning cartoon, so anyway.
But as far as like I don't know, putting some more of the work or the agency to the players, is there a reason you couldn't just play DCC or Dungeons and Dragons and go, hey, instead of making the attack rolls, you make the attack rolls?
Yeah.
I mean, you could do that. That's a mechanic that you could introduce to pretty much any game, because you could go, hey, you have a +5 to hit, roll to hit yourself.
Yeah.
Why not?
There's actually been times where we started to pack the dice away and someone goes, oh, wait, what about XYZ? And we go, you know what, we got about 30 more minutes. And I want to pull my dice back out. And I go, hey, just roll the dice. Roll for me. Here, you roll to hit him, or whatever. I mean, because I'm not all jazzed up, hung up on. But I will say it's been interesting. I'll tell on myself, at like Long Con back in November, I ran, Schoolhouse Rock, which is one of my little adventures for barbarians. And I kept wanting to reach for my dice. And I catch myself. I'm like, nope, I don't roll. And the table laughed. We had a good little laugh.
Which that's one of the reasons I'm looking forward to running it, is to do that to myself, to be like, oh yeah, don't have to roll.
It is a little bit of a trip. I mean, for a guy who's been running games for you and me both for a lot of years, it's trippy. Because at least, I get to roll for damage. But, honestly, one day I thought I could just do averages.
Well, now that you mentioned it, I'm like, I might do that and not even bring out a die. Be like, I'm going to run this game and I'm not going to use one single die.
And won't that be a mind blower?
Yeah.
It's but it's funny, in recent years we've both worked toward being more minimalist game masters, and there's something to be said for the people that show up with all the maps and the miniatures and the terrain, and that's really sexy.
Which was you for a while.
Yeah, it was absolutely. I was that guy. I had, good Lord, an obscene amount of those D&D miniatures from WizKids and back in the day, and but I've kind of been selling them off, moving them out. Because, when I started this as a kid, we didn't have all those trappings. They weren't a thing, or we couldn't afford them, or they weren't available. And we had a lot of fun and didn't need it. This is a game of imagination. So we'd love to hear your feedback. What do you think about this? What's more important? Or is there a balance for you, or neither one? And what do you think about these player-facing rules or whatever? Would you, I would hate that. I'd love that. Or I'm intrigued, as a game master. Well, Eddie's comment, that he says, probably some jerkwad cheater GM would hate the game, I want to hear some jerkwad cheaters who are like, I'd still find a way to cheat,
Yeah, kind of, not as a jerkwad cheater, but
it was a joke, yeah.
I like to roll behind the GM screen when I roll.
To the benefit of the players. Because
but I think that does add something back to the old. It harkens back to the olden days too, where there were secrets and mysteries behind the GM screen, and I'm going to roll a die, and you don't know why I'm rolling it.
But I will say this: even in Barbarians, at one point I got tired of these guys. I missed every time. So I said, all right, I'll have an encounter where they're shooting these missiles that explode over such a large area. You get to roll to evade half the damage, but you're going to take some damage, darn it. So as the GM, who cares if you're not rolling dice? If you really want to thrash your characters, it's a game. You can say, boulders fall, you all die.
Scumbag GMs.
Exactly. So,
But the other thing I'll say about Barbarians is we'll have to send this to Mike Evans and get a sponsorship.
Yeah, I know.
We're really stroking him hard today.
Yeah, exactly. I bet if he only knew.
The thing with Barbarians, though, is I think it should stay super heroic.
Oh, yeah.
If you're like, these guys aren't taking enough damage, or they're just mowing through everything, play something different.
Yeah.
But this is a good other game, too, for that, where it's like, look, we'll play Barbarians and we'll play First Edition or DCC or something like that. We've got one game where you're going to kick my ass, and there's one game where the other asses are getting kicked.
Yeah.
It kind of goes back and forth like, man, this game is so hard, we're always getting trounced. And one where it's like, hey, this is pretty easy, we're always heroic. So I like both of those.
Sure.
Taste of both.
Sometimes, you want mounds, and sometimes you want almond joy. But that's kind of the thing. I've been accused of being the GM that roots a little too much for the players, and so that might be why I really like Barbarians, because it seems that it's a real chance for the players to shine and for their characters to be super heroic. And
I always root for the characters, but I think Barbarians gives you more license to read
Yeah.
for them.
Absolutely. And I think it's the rules light aspect of it really frees me up to do some really neat stuff as a game master. Would you agree with that statement?
Sure.
Okay. So anyway, well, all right. Well, again, this one's been kind of long in the tooth, but then again, y'all haven't had one for a month. But
You may not want another one after this.
I would hopefully you took this and took some breaks. But we've missed y'all.
Or you've had a really long drive or a really bad day.
And now it's worse.
Is that it? You got anything else you want to harangue them with?
No, that was pretty much it.
All right. Give us your feedback, or the next episode is going to be 3 hours.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I can tell by the clock on the wall that we're all out of hit points. So, yeah.
Bye.